Hi, I'm Lizabeth.
And I'm Cindy.
And we're here with another Feeding Frenzy for A Course in Weight Loss, and we're on number 17.
Still. Yeah, that's okay though. It was a good chapter.
It was a really good chapter. It's an important chapter.
Mm-hmm. And the more I think we're done with it, the more it comes up.
I know. And I'm sitting here with my little lap desk and my journal and my paper, and I'm still having resistance.
Why?
I'm still having a lot of resistance.
Why?
Well, you and I both have had some pretty upsetting things come up.
Yes.
And
Just since we started this.
Just since we started this chapter, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started the forgiveness, that's when my freshest hit, right then.
Mine too.
And yours too. Mine was with...
I'm done with mine. How come you're not?
Good for you. Because I think it's the circumstances.
I'm joking.
I know you're joking, but mine was with my son and his father, my ex, and I am really having difficulty letting go of this one. And you know, I talked about it earlier, and I just asked, why do you think I'm having such trouble letting go of this one? Or what did you say?
You asked me why you were having resistance. And I said that I think it's because once you get this out, then you really have to let go. And you're resisting letting go. You don't want to let go of him. And I don't blame you. But at some point...
I know at some point, you know, I know. And we all know at some point you gotta let go of your kids. It's really hard to do at 11, you know. I was expecting it 7 years from now, but... And I have let go in stages. I really have. But this one just feels like a final let go. And it's hard to let go.
But think of it like this. When you let go, I mean, I had to do the same thing. I think my son was 11 or 12. I can't remember which. But think of it like that. You're letting go of the hurt.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that.
You don't have to let go of him.
I know.
You can still have
here.
as much
Yes,
contact.
I know that. I know that I'm letting go of the need to hang on. I know that. But I still find it difficult. This one is hollering, as soon as you do, you know what's going to happen.
The only thing you're really letting go of is seeing him every single day. You're still going to see him whenever you want to. You're going to have lunch with him in just a little while. You know, you get to see him. At least your son lives in the same city. Mine didn't. You know, you can see him anytime you want to. When you get to missing him too bad, you can just get up and go see him. Yeah. Whether he's at school or, I mean, just at school 2 doors down. I mean,
yeah, I know.
You can go see him. I would have had to drive 2 hours. And a lot of people have lost theirs. I mean, they've died or something, you know. So, and see it like this instead, maybe. Instead of resisting doing it because you have to let go, I'm just opening up to more better stuff.
More better? Yeah. I'm having trouble seeing the more better.
Okay.
Because what's forefront, what I'm seeing forefront is the loss of him. And I realize that's the seeing and the lack.
Sometimes we have to let go of the good to get the better or the best. Okay, so see it like that. That you're letting go of the way things used to be so that you can have a better relationship with him. Okay, I saw big changes in you and him both yesterday because you had let go of certain things to a greater extent. Yeah. And you and him, both of you seem to have a more open, happier connection yesterday. Yeah. Agree?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
And then I saw you move more of his stuff out and clean up some of the old stuff. And so I think, you know, see it like that. Because you can let go of the old ways and the old habits and the old relationship, you can now open up to a better new relationship where he feels more freedom.
Yeah. And
you do too.
Yeah.
And you're not, I mean, it's hard to let go of the little boy that he was because he's becoming a young man. You know? He'll be a teenager soon. which is hard to believe, but he will. And you need a different relationship with a teenager than you had with a little boy. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So see it as an opening. You know, I know that in all of the prosperity stuff I've studied with Catherine Ponder, she's always talking about there's a vacuum. And when you get rid of things, that creates a vacuum to bring in new, better stuff. Mm-hmm. But as long as you hang on to the old stuff, you can't create that natural vacuum which pulls in bigger, better stuff.
Yeah.
So as long as you hold on to that little boy and hold on to the relationship you once had, then you can't create the vacuum for the new, better relationship.
That's true. That's true.
So
and I guess I've still got a lot of the emotional work to do, which is another. I guess another reason
that little boy, because that little boy doesn't exist anymore.
He doesn't, and that hurts. Because I miss that little boy. I miss that little boy. But
you also have to agree that since he's not a little boy anymore, he doesn't need mommy's input as much either.
That's true.
So he needs to let go of mommy.
Yeah.
And become who he needs to become. And that's his path. And his decisions, even at 11, almost 12. You know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to let them do what they want to do sometimes, especially when it doesn't agree with what you want them to do. How you'd like for it to turn out.
That's true. That's true.
It's hard. It's just hard. And it takes time.
You get used to the way certain things have been happening, and it's difficult to let go, especially not knowing. You know, it's almost like having a boat docked, and you're used to visiting that boat. They're at the dock and thinking there's safety there. No, it's there. Every time I go, it's there. And but it's time for that boat to leave the dock, and I realize, but letting go of that rope completely, not knowing is there a storm right past where I can't see, is hard. It's really hard, especially when it's our kids. And
so you got to let them handle their own storms. You can't.
I do. I've made a lot of progress with that.
Oh, you have. You've made a tremendous amount of progress, and you know what? It still hurts, and you just got to move through the hurt. You got to get it out. You can't stuff it and put more rocks in your backpack.
Yeah. It's difficult. But I'm moving through it. I'm sitting here with this because I'm going to write through it.
Journal entries. So think of it like this, too. You can either deal with this rock in your backpack now or later. Right. And if you deal with it later, you got to carry it somewhere.
Yeah. I don't want to carry it
anymore. Heavy. It's heavy. And it hurts just as bad later as it does now, if not more so.
Yeah.
So let's deal with it now and get it over with and be done with it, and then you can open up to bigger, better things.
Yeah. So I'm going to work through it and move through it, and I know that this process takes time, and I know that I'm not the only one that's going to need some time with some forgiveness work. You know, it's not just this one aspect that I need to work on. So. So we're going to extend this again today, and I'll report back and let you know how it's going.
Yeah. One of these days we'll move on to the next lesson. We're going to take our time and be easy on ourselves.
That's the only way I know is to give it the time it needs in order to move through, so that I don't put it back in my backpack.
Right.
So I don't stuff it again. I don't want it to have to come up again. I want to deal with it and let it go.
Good. Good. We're dropping those rocks, and we're going to keep dropping those rocks. And the only way to do is deal with them now as they come up instead of putting them off till later. Because they got to be dealt with.
Right.
One way or the other.
Right.
Sometime or the other. So I'm proud of you for admitting that.
It's hard to admit.
Stuffing it and moving on.
It'd be much easier just to stuff it and hang on to the anger and the resentment for a while. But if I do that, I know that I'm going to sabotage my relationship, my new relationship that I'm going to have with him. The relationship is changing regardless whether I'm agreeing with it or not. It is, and that's the fact. And so my only control over the situation is what relationship we have after this. And if I choose to hang on to the anger and the hurt and resentment and everything else, then that is definitely going to temper the relationship that I have with both of them.
Right, right.
So I choose to make that relationship better by moving through the pain and the hurt and everything now.
Right. And the one thing I learned is the most important thing here is he happy? Yeah. His happiness is the most important thing. I learned that I did not want my kids to sacrifice their happiness for anybody, including me.
Yeah.
And that was a hard lesson to learn, but I had sacrificed my happiness for so many people, especially men, and it was not helping any of us.
Right.
And once I realized that, that was the greatest lesson I wanted to teach my kids. Find your happiness and don't sacrifice it for anyone, especially not me. You know?
Yeah.
And that works in any relationship, at least that I've found, is if I take care of my happiness and demand that person take care of theirs, then the relationship will work. I might get my feelings hurt because they're not doing it the way I think they should. But bottom line, I want them to be happy. And if they're not happy because they're trying to make me happy, neither one of us are going to be happy.
Yeah.
So he's doing what he wants to do to be happy. That doesn't go with what you want him to do right now. But he'll either come around or he won't. But as long as you're teaching him to do what makes him happy, then eventually that's what we want most, is our kids to be happy.
Yeah. I do. I want him to follow his own internal guidance system.
Exactly.
And I know it's my ego that wants to steer his internal guidance system. I want to tell him, look, I'm on this side of it, and I see where you're going, and why don't you let me help you steer your internal guidance system, because I know more than yours does, because I can see, I know this is all my ego talking. And I know he's got his own path, and I know he's got his own lessons to learn. I know.
And we learn better from our own mistakes than we learn from others.
Yes.
Even though it hurts in the process. Yes. And we could steer him clear of a lot of those mistakes.
But they're going to come around in the end and teach him another way.
He's going to have to learn one way or the other. And the best way to learn is to make them himself.
So I'm working through that, and it's taking more time than I thought it would.
You're doing a great job.
But I don't want to put them back through. I don't want to put my rocks back in there.
No.
And I definitely don't want to carry it on my outside shell any longer. So.
Yep. So how you been doing with the eating through this?
Really, really well.
Good.
Really well. I have been tempted, sorely tempted. Cried through it because I couldn't have the temptation. No, because I chose not to have the temptation. I could have had it any time. I chose not to, and I felt better once I chose not to indulge, because then I didn't have any added guilt over indulging myself.
Right. So, from my perspective, last night you were wanting ice cream. Really bad. Really bad. But I heard you make the conscious decision, out loud even, to get the girls to make healthy cookies instead.
Yes.
And not so healthy cookies. But they were still very healthy. They
Compared
weren't as healthy as the other ones, but they didn't have a lot of sugar. Excuse me. They were still cookies. But you had one.
One of each.
I did too. One of each. Right.
One of the one that had real sugar in it, and one of the ones that had bananas and applesauce.
But that's a heck of a lot better than a Blizzard, which is
or a gallon of ice cream,
or a gallon of ice cream, which is where we were headed.
Exactly.
And what we would have done 2 months ago.
So I still, like I told you before, I still fed the addiction in the moment because I didn't have. I couldn't fight them both, but I chose a healthier choice than the original.
And that's progress. And I celebrate your progress.
Thank you.
Because you did really good. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. Because it did take a lot of willpower in that moment.
A lot of discipline.
And a lot of discipline. I truly did want something comforting. And you asked me, and I appreciate it. You asked me, what are you feeding? And that helps me a lot, because it helps me not get into that spiral of the addiction. It helps me stop it right then, or pay attention to it right then. Good. So thank you for asking. What are you feeding? And I just told you truthfully, I want something sweeter. I want something that feels better than I do now.
That's okay. Whatever it takes to get through it in the moment without abusing yourself.
Exactly.
So you're doing good. We're doing good.
I'm doing really good. And it's one day at a time. It's one moment at a time. It's one crisis at a time.
Right. And this study's really helping.
And it really is.
It really is. I can tell a
really
huge
is.
difference in me too.
Yeah.
And I think it's rubbing off on the girls too because they see us sticking to it and not sticking to it painfully,
Right.
but just living it as a new lifestyle naturally.
I also, when we first started, didn't put that expectation too high. I did not expect, okay, I'm going to be thin, but I'm going to do this.
Right.
No, I started it knowing I'm making changes here, and if I need to go back through it, I've got it.
Right.
If you're like me and you feel like there's, this one particular lesson I got to take my time with, then by all means, no. This isn't something that has to be done every single day.
Right.
Stop and take your time, then pick it up when you're ready.
We recorded our journey, not yours. And your
Right.
journey is totally different from
Right.
ours. But it's been really good stuff.
It has been good stuff. You've been trying to end this for a while, haven't you?
Stream.